location that, you know, checks all of the boxes, and that's still the hope. But there's certainly an adequate Plan B and Plan C in place. So, you know, personally, I'm in no position to kind of hold this process up, right? And in terms of Lindon, everyone came to that meeting kind of with the shared opinion that the Lindon Rec Center was not the ideal location. It was just the location. But as we get some clarity from social development in terms of what they're able to provide in terms of funding, my personal opinion is that, you know, with enough money, you can find any space adequate, you know, if you just have enough money and you're willing to spend it. So there were some assurances there that there was a budget attached to this. And so the working group will continue to move forward and find a ideal place, location A. But at this point, with high confidence that we'll be able to do that, and with Plan B and Plan C in place, I think Council's able to leave the Lindon Rec Center to arrive at its fate. That's my update.
Thank you, Councillor Duplessis. So given that we have had new information, and as we will recall at the last meeting, the clerk said it would be at the discretion of the chair, I will allow everybody to speak again if they'd like to, because we have received new information on the matter. So we open back now the discussion on the motion, and I'll ask on the question again, if anyone would like to speak, you are welcome to do so. And Councillor Arsenault, you did put your hand up, so I'll...
Well, I just had a question actually on the update, if I may.
Sure.
Do we have a timeline as to when the out of the cold would be in place, whatever the location may be?
Seemingly, like there's other municipalities. There was an article written in the Telegraph around Fredericton, St. John, and Moncton having like a whole pilot project developed for them. I think, you know, we should be part of that conversation. We're not currently. But to your question of like, St. Stephen's, for example, they're running on an early December to late March. And that would be, if I trying to best remember, but I believe last year we didn't start having these conversations till December, and a facility was made available January 6th. So I think we're ahead of the planning process compared to last year, but the ideal timeline would be early December to late March.
Yep, and still to you, Councillor.
Thank you. So given that information, I am inclined to support the motion to reallocate so that the Lindon can finally come down. That I was supportive of the Lindon not continuing, with the idea that we find some place for an out of the cold shelter, because I believe that we, in this case, find ourselves responsible for our citizens in this manner, and that, you know, it's my hope that we'll find a good location soon, but that the Lindon can now go.
Great, thank you, Councillor Arsenault. I'll just speak from the chair as well, or to say that I will support the motion myself also at this time. I supported and continue to support that we would take down the Lindon Rec Center as part of the multiplex transition. Of course, none of us wanted it to cost this much, and I did ask, you know, to consider if this one should be first of the three that were slated for this year. But accepting that this is the recommendation, I'll support the motion, and I'll take it as good news that the conversation is now started regarding an out of the whole, cold shelter in the community, and with confidence that there are a number of locations potentially being discussed, and none of them are the Lindon Rec Center. So that makes me feel comfortable in proceeding with my vote in favor this evening. That said, I also look forward on that issue to interjecting myself into the conversation now that I'm back from my personal work in Newfoundland. You know, there's an out of the cold once again required this winter, clearly. And I would like to understand, you know, why what's happening in Moncton, Fredericton, and St. John is not happening here, and perhaps it can. And also, you know, I'll go back to the previous Minister of Social Development's words and objectives, which was that we would not be dealing in out of the colds because everybody would have an adequate level of permanent shelter beds in their communities as required through the new homelessness plan that is to come forward. So we'll look forward to getting those updates and making sure that our community is adequately served and equitably served as it relates to other communities, both in the short term with an out of the cold shelter and in the long term with the additional permanent beds that we need in this community. But again, tonight, as it relates to the Lindon Rec Center, I'll be in favor. Councillor King.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just, was there any discussion on Plan B and C, Chad? What was the discussion?
Just potential locations, but it would be too early, like there was nothing confirmed, but just potential locations that could serve and kind of check the boxes in terms of like washroom facilities, access to shower, that sort of thing, right? And then, but yeah, I think it'd be too early to say, and I don't have confirmation on my end, so.
Your Worship, if I may,
Yeah.
the Lindon Rec Center, the estimate cost $240. Would that be the cost for that, Darren? $240,000 just to tear that down?
Yeah, that's what Councillor King. Well, we did a hazmat survey, a hazardous materials survey. Come back, was a little higher than we thought of hazardous materials. And we had our consultants provide an estimate on that based on current market conditions. So it's just an estimate. I mean, we're going to put it out to tender. We're going to come back with the actual cost. So, you know, hopefully it's lower. That's what we always hope. So, but that's our best guess is going to cost that much. Yeah.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will, too, be supporting the motion before us here this evening, and great to know that the work is being done and plans are being put forth. And if I may, Your Worship, just an apology to Councillor DePlacy and the rest of my council colleagues here. We took a long road to getting to the same desired result here of buying some time with that meeting. With all sincerity, Councillor DePlacy, I was hearing you, but I don't know that I was listening to you that night, so I'll apologize for that. And we took a long, circuitous route there, so please accept that.
Quinn. Seeing nothing further, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.